The Confederate flags formed a barricade across Pinewood Valley's main intersection, their bearers laughing as Marcus Johnson's car slowed to a stop. When he politely explained he just wanted to get home, the blonde leader leaned into his window. "Your kind doesn't belong here anymore," she sneered, her companions closing ranks while police officers deliberately looked away. What the woman failed to notice was how Marcus's eyes methodically catalogued their positions. How his breathing remained combat steady with the practiced calm of someone who had faced far worse threats. 10 years as a Navy SEAL in Iraq had taught Marcus Johnson how to survive impossible situations. And his sister, the Army Ranger, whose call he was about to make, had taught him something else. Sometimes, justice requires equal force. Marcus turned down the volume on his podcast as he steered his Toyota Camry into Pinewood Valley. After a long shift at the Veterans Hospital, the familiar streets of his neighborhood usually brought comfort. Today, something felt off. 3 blocks from his apartment, traffic slowed to a crawl. Cars ahead were turning around. "What now?" he muttered, drumming fingers against the steering wheel. He rolled down his window as an elderly neighbor walked past his car. "Mr. Washington, what's happening up there?" The man's face tightened. "Those people are blocking the intersection at Lincoln and Oak again. Been there since noon, getting worse." Marcus nodded his thanks and eased forward. Over the past month, he'd heard about these demonstrations. White supremacists with Confederate flags blocking streets, harassing residents, always in predominantly black neighborhoods, never anywhere else. As he rounded the corner, the scene came into view. At least 15 white men and women had formed a line across the intersection, Confederate flags visible even from this distance. They held signs with slogans about taking back the neighborhood. Behind them stood 3 police officers chatting casually. Marcus's phone buzzed. Amara's name flashed on the screen. He let it go to voicemail. His sister worried too much since he'd returned from Iraq. He took a deep breath the way he'd been trained. Assess the situation, identify exits, calculate risks. 10 years as a Navy SEAL had hardwired these instincts. Marcus inched his car forward, joining the small line of vehicles trying to navigate around the blockade. A woman with platinum blonde hair pointed at his car. "Here comes another one." As he approached, they closed ranks. She stepped directly in front of his car, forcing him to brake. "Streets closed today," she called, smirking through the windshield. Marcus rolled down his window. "I live here. I'm just trying to get home." "Should have picked a better neighborhood," another protester said, younger with a shaved head. The others laughed. He kept his voice even. "Look, I've had a long day. I'm a physical therapist at the VA hospital. I work with veterans. I'm just trying to get to my apartment." The blonde woman leaned down, peering into his car. Her breath smelled of cigarettes. "You people always have excuses. This street belongs to everyone, and today we're exercising our rights." Marcus's hand tightened on the steering wheel. He noticed the police officers still talking among themselves, deliberately ignoring the situation. "Please move," he said. "You're blocking a public road." "Free country," said the skinhead, moving closer. "We can stand wherever we want." A memory flashed. A checkpoint in Fallujah. A crowd growing hostile. Marcus pushed it away. This was different. This was home. "What's the problem here?" A new voice joined in as a heavy-set woman with a ruddy face approached. She wore no flag but carried herself like someone in charge. "Having trouble understanding English?" "I understand perfectly," Marcus replied, his patience thinning. "You're illegally blocking traffic. The police should be arresting you, not protecting you." The woman's fake smile vanished. "Listen, boy." "No, you listen," Marcus said, opening his car door. Something in him had snapped. He stepped out, standing at his full height. The protesters seemed momentarily surprised by his confidence. "This is my neighborhood. I served this country for 10 years, 3 tours in Iraq as a Navy SEAL. I didn't do that so you could harass people on their way home." From the corner of his eye, Marcus saw one of the police officers finally look in his direction, then deliberately turn away. The group leader stepped closer. "Playing the veteran card. Bet that's as fake as everything else about you." Marcus felt a familiar calm settling over him, the kind that came before operations. His senses sharpened. He noted positions, stances, potential weapons. 15 to 1. Bad odds. But he'd faced worse. Step back from my vehicle, he said quietly. Or what? The woman challenged, knocking on his hood. You going to make us? Hey folks, he's going to make us. Laughter rippled through the group. From the group's perspective, the man before them didn't match their expectations. He stood straight, unintimidated. His eyes scanned them systematically, calculating. It unsettled them slightly, though none would admit it. Last chance, Marcus said. Let me through. The blonde woman shoved his shoulder. Go around if you're smart. Marcus didn't budge. Touch me again and you'll regret it. Is that a threat? The leader's voice rose. Officers, this man is threatening us. One policeman finally strolled over, looking bored. What's the problem here? No problem, Marcus said, maintaining eye contact with the leader. These people were just moving to let traffic through. Actually, the leader said, this hostile individual was threatening peaceful protesters. We're exercising our First Amendment rights. The officer looked at Marcus with thinly veiled contempt. Sir, you need to return to your vehicle and find another route. They're blocking a public street, Marcus insisted. That's not a legal protest. I'm not going to tell you again, the officer said. Get back in your car, or I'll have to take action. Marcus recognized the futility. He'd faced this kind of arbitrary power before, overseas and at home. He turned to get back in his car when the blonde woman muttered something under her breath. What did you just say? He asked, stopping. She grinned, repeating the slur louder. Something cold and familiar settled in Marcus's stomach. Not fear, clarity. The world slowed down as his training took over. Wrong move, he whispered. When the blonde woman reached for Marcus's arm, muscle memory took over. He pivoted, using her momentum to throw her off balance. She stumbled backward, surprise flashing across her face before anger replaced it. You crazy. She lunged forward. Marcus sidestepped, his movements precise. Don't. The protest leader stepped between them. So, that's how it's going to be. Her voice carried across the intersection, drawing the others closer. Folks, looks like we got ourselves a troublemaker. The circle tightened around him. Marcus's car now felt miles away. He reached for his phone in his back pocket, keeping his eyes on the people surrounding him. Back off, he warned, his voice steady despite the adrenaline coursing through him. I don't want trouble. Should have thought about that before you put hands on my friend, the leader said, inching closer. The policeman who had approached earlier watched from a distance, making no move to intervene. 2 more officers joined him, their postures casual, amused. I'm calling my sister, Marcus said, holding up his phone. He hit Amara's number, putting it on speaker. Hey bro, I was just. Amara's voice came through. I'm at Lincoln and Oak, he interrupted, his voice controlled but urgent. There's a situation. The blonde woman lunged forward, knocking the phone from his hand. It clattered to the pavement, screen cracking on impact. Oops, she said with mock innocence. Marcus, Marcus. Amara's voice called out faintly from the broken phone. That's when the first punch came. Marcus blocked it instinctively, years of combat training kicking in. He countered, connecting with the skinhead's solar plexus. The man doubled over, gasping. He hit me, he wheezed theatrically. Did you see that? Marcus backed up, creating space, but the circle had closed. Another protester grabbed him from behind. He stomped on the man's instep, twisted, and broke his hold. 2 more rushed him. Officers, he shouted, I'm being assaulted. The police continued watching, one of them shaking his head slightly. Marcus fought with controlled precision, protecting himself without excessive force. These weren't insurgents, they were civilians, misguided, hateful, but civilians nonetheless. He couldn't use the full extent of his training, and they knew it. A blow caught his temple. Another struck his ribs. He staggered but remained standing, blocking what he could. Blood trickled from his eyebrow. That's enough. A new voice cut through the chaos. The crowd parted slightly as a Latino officer pushed through. Officer Carlos Mendez surveyed the scene, his face unreadable. Break it up now, he ordered. The leader smirked. Officer, this man assaulted several peaceful protesters. We were simply defending ourselves. Mendez looked at Marcus, noting his stance, his measured breathing despite his injuries. Recognition flickered in his eyes, not of him specifically, but of what he was. He'd seen enough veterans to know. "Everyone, back up," Mendez commanded. He turned to Marcus. "Sir, are you all right?" Before he could answer, the protest leader stepped forward. He started this whole thing. Mendez asked the first officer, "Peterson, you saw it?" The officer nodded. "Confirmation. Man was hostile from the start. Threatened these folks, then got physical." Mendez's jaw tightened almost imperceptibly. "I'll handle this." He turned to Marcus. "I'm calling an ambulance." "I don't need," Marcus began. "You're bleeding," Mendez interrupted. "Protocol." From across the street, Mendez observed more than he let on. The man's defensive stance, his restraint in the fight. This wasn't some random troublemaker. The protesters were regulars, showing up in different neighborhoods, always with the same result: confrontation, followed by selective enforcement. He'd voiced concerns to Chief Larson once and been reassigned to desk duty for a month. Now he kept his head down, did his job, collected evidence silently. "Your name, sir?" Mendez asked, pulling out a notepad. "Marcus Johnson," he answered, dabbing at his bloodied eyebrow. "I want to press charges." Laughter erupted from the group. The leader stepped forward confidently. "For what? You attacked us. We have witnesses." She gestured to the other officers who nodded agreement. "That's not what happened," Marcus insisted, his voice sharp with controlled fury. Mendez studied him for a moment. "Mr. Johnson, the ambulance will take you to the county. Once you're treated, come down to the station to file a report." "What about them?" He gestured to the group, now back to blocking the road, emboldened. "We'll take statements here," Mendez said, his tone neutral, but his eyes conveying something else. The ambulance arrived minutes later. As paramedics attended to Marcus, the protesters resumed their chanting, louder now, energized by their victory. Mendez handed Marcus a business card as he was helped onto a stretcher. "Direct line," he said quietly, "when you're ready to make that statement." Marcus tucked the card away, saying nothing. Through the ambulance doors, he watched the scene grow smaller. The Confederate flags, the laughing officers, Mendez standing apart. His phone was still on the pavement, broken. Amara would be worried sick. The pain in his ribs sharpened with each breath. But something else burned hotter, the absolute certainty that this wasn't over. At the intersection, Mendez watched the ambulance pull away. He turned back to the group who were already celebrating, sharing fist bumps with officers Peterson and Miller. "Nice work handling that one, Mendez," Peterson called out. "See, no need to make a big deal." Mendez nodded noncommittally and walked back to his patrol car. In his pocket, his personal phone recorded everything: conversations, laughter, the casual conspiracy of silence. One more piece of evidence for a file that was growing too large to ignore. Behind the wheel, he glanced at the name he'd written in his notepad: Marcus Johnson. He'd run it later, off the official system. Something told him this man wasn't going to disappear quietly like the others. Amara Johnson burst through the emergency room doors, scanning faces frantically until she spotted a nurse at the intake desk. "Marcus Johnson," she said, her voice tight with controlled panic. "My brother was brought in about an hour ago." The nurse typed on her keyboard. "Relation?" "I'm his emergency contact. He's in Bay 3. Doctor's with him now." Amara found Marcus sitting on an exam table as a doctor finished placing butterfly bandages on his eyebrow. Dark bruises had already formed along his jawline. "Marcus." She rushed forward, stopping short when she saw the extent of his injuries. "What the hell happened?" The doctor glanced between them. 3 bruised ribs, laceration above the eye, multiple contusions. "He's lucky, nothing's broken." He turned to Marcus. "I'll get your discharge papers ready. Remember, rest and ice." Once the doctor left, Amara pulled up a chair. "I got to Lincoln and Oak, but all I saw were cops cleaning up. No ambulance, no you." Her voice cracked slightly. "When your call cut off like that." "I'm okay," Marcus interrupted, though his wince as he shifted betrayed the lie. "Who did this?" Marcus's eyes hardened. A group of white supremacists blocking the road in front of the neighborhood. "When I tried to get through, they surrounded my car, And the police watched, laughed. He touched his bandaged eyebrow. Except one, Mendez. He seemed different. Amara's military training was evident in how she processed the information. Efficient, strategic, compartmentalizing emotion. 8 years as an Army Ranger had taught her to channel anger into action. Did you get names? Faces? Better. Marcus handed her Mendez card. This officer gave me his direct line, said to call when I'm ready to make a statement. Amara examined the card. You trust him? Not yet. But he's the only one who stepped in. Marcus lowered his voice. This wasn't random, Amara. These people were organized, protected. The cops knew them by name. Something unspoken passed between the siblings. Recognition of a threat that went beyond a single incident. My car is still there, Marcus added. Phone smashed on the pavement. I'll handle it, Amara said. Stay here until I get back. Not a chance. Marcus slid carefully off the exam table. We do this together. What began as a simple act of harassment would soon unravel a conspiracy reaching to the highest levels of local government. The siblings didn't know it yet, but their military training was about to be put to use in the most unexpected battlefield of all, their own hometown. And this time, the enemy wasn't wearing a uniform, they were hiding behind badges, business suits, and Confederate flags.